Shalom. Just want to take a moment prior to Shabbat to kind of say a few things about the issues that we have within our country as well as within any community of the United States when it comes to issues of police brutality as well as any maltreatment of any person for any reason, be it religiously or otherwise. One thing for sure that everyone that is seeing this should know, Barath Mikra Emet's position is that we're Jewish, we preserve life, and we do believe in the Torah and the protection the Torah gives for us as a people. The situation with George Floyd is very, very saddening for me on multiple levels, not only personally as an African American, but also as a human being. No person should be killed or harmed by police. For those who don't know me on a personal level, I worked for a police department, worked as a jail officer in my younger days, and one of the things that our police department was big on was no police brutality. They treat everybody the same, treat everybody with respect and dignity. But we find that when issues happen, we can sometimes take the most extreme path or a path that's not extreme enough. One of the things is that makes now different than during the civil rights movement or any other time is that people have their smartphones. So issues are being seen, issues are being reported. That is a great thing with us because the dialogue that needs to happen between people, and I don't mean black, white, purple, green, blue, whatever designation. I just mean in general that when a person calls the police or needs the police should be there to help you. The police should not be there to turn the tables on a suspect, because at the end of the day, a person is a suspect until they have been proven guilty of some crime. You're suspected. Jeffrey Epstein, everybody knows he committed many crimes. However, he was still a suspect. So we have to look at our life in such that, or not our life personally, but life in general, as a blessing, not a curse. A person shouldn't feel differently if the police show up because of the color of their skin. A person shouldn't feel a certain way because, hey, it's 12 o'clock at night or whatever. We're supposedly living in a free country. And in living in a free country, we should have the freedoms afforded to that. One of the biggest things I think in Judaism, and we always say this, it's never again. That is something that really, really hits home. Looking at the Holocaust, Jews can feel really close to the plight of the African American person as well as the plight of ourselves within our own communities, and it's because it's similar. Once you're in a different class of the majority, you become a threat or you become less than. I mean, I've lived in different parts of the United States, and I can go in certain areas of the Midwest. I won't speak any cities, but when people find out, they may speak on the phone, we meet, they say I'm African American, they shy away from me. Secondly, I've seen people who, even though after they made it through that initial shock, they notice that I'm Jewish because I don't make it a secret. I wear my zizi. And it can be a situation of two things. In our society, we'll say that, oh, they're racist because they don't like black people. Well, sometimes that's the case, but other times it's the case of people not being able to deal with what they don't understand. I've been in places in the Midwest where you never see a black person. And I had a friend say, well, they're racist. And I'm like, no, they're not racist. People aren't racist genetically. Sometimes people are fearful of what they don't understand and they don't know. When a person only watches TV or the media for their information, they find that they have what we call their subconscious becomes their reality. It's not that all police officers are bad. It's not that all police officers are good. I mean, you can watch just the news, and you see different things happening with police here being investigated for being corrupt. The key is that we as a people have to bond together to be unified as one human race. And I dare to say this, and I've seen this working on the other side, or not necessarily on the other side, but working in a different capacity, that sometimes police officers use the term, oh, the blue line, or we don't try to go against cops. Well, that's understandable for some certain circumstances, but when you talk about brutality, over enforcement, over patrolling, mass incarceration, it's a problem, and it's a human problem. It's not just a race problem, because there are a lot of African American cops out there that try to do the right thing, that get caught in situations where they're viewed by their own community as being sellouts, or less than a African American, because you decide to have a job, you decide to work, you decide that, hey, I want to do something better for myself. One thing to understand about issues with race, religion, etc., is that for you to change things, you have to change it from within. Meaning that we can riot all day, we can tear up the half of the United States. Will it change anything? In some cases, yes. And in other cases, it won't. Other cases, what it will do is it will devalue your own communities and your own areas. Now, I'll say this about Birmingham, Alabama, for example, because I lived there. Downtown Birmingham in the 60s, we blew it up, burned it down. Well, now developers have come in and revitalized it. Now it's basically a very expensive area of Birmingham where the average citizen, when I say average citizen, I mean minimum or a little bit more than minimum wage, can't afford to live there. But this was at one point where we lived. And when I say we, I mean those who don't have a higher level of income. So we have to understand, what are we riding for? B, what is the after effects of that riding? If I, as a business owner, which I am, owned a CVS or some other store, you burn it down in a certain neighborhood, what are the likelihood of me putting that business back in the same spot? It's very low. I mean, if you look at cities like Baltimore, when you had the riots, how many of those places came back? How many of them came back to those same neighborhoods to serve the communities who have been disproportionately policed, the ones that have been over-policed, over-abused? Companies don't look at it that way. So from a business standpoint, we also have to look at the ramifications of our actions, as well as from the physical aspect. Secondly, what is our plan? What is our process? What do we want? We want police brutality to stop. That's understandable. That's a given. That's something that's a basic human right. A human being should never fear or feel threatened or feel as though their life may end when they see a police officer. On the flip side of that, we have to understand that in our own communities, we can't say, stop snitching, stuff like that, because the mindset from the law enforcement side of this, and I don't make any excuses for the law enforcement, granted, but when they go into certain neighborhoods and they know that people won't help if there's something going on, like somebody breaking my house right now, tie me up, the likelihood of me having people come and from my own neighborhood, which I live in a mixed neighborhood, so I'm sure my neighborhood watch would work, but in a predominantly low-income area or an inner city area where the rule of the street is don't snitch, well, guess what? That person just robbed me. They took everything that I had. Now I am stuck in a lower or haven't, not say lower class, but I'm in a position where Now I've lost something. So now I've got a setback. Whether I got insurance or not is kind of irrelevant, but now I've got to build back up to where I was to get ahead. We as a community have to help police ourselves, and that's no matter what community. That's Jewish, black, white, no matter. We have to work better at policing ourselves. B, taking down the stigma of race, taking down the stigma of creed, and religion. Right? I've met people of different religions, different ethnicities. I have friends who are all types of ethnicities, and I always will have friends who are different ethnicities. And the reason that I do have friends that are that way, that are different, is because for me to understand a person, I have to understand a people, meaning that I have to understand your culture. I have to understand things about you. One of the biggest downfalls in policing that I've seen in the United States is that police officers will come from one neighborhood, be placed in another neighborhood that they don't understand and they don't know much about, and it becomes us against them. A lot of African American officers, they catch hell in their own community. I can assure you 300% I've seen this firsthand, whereas an African American officer will go on a call and get treated like crap because he thought of as a sellout, whereas a Caucasian or white officer will go in and quell the situation. We've got to take that part of it out of our thought processes as a people. And secondly, I've seen the opposite of that happen. I've seen where you go to a call and a white officer, and they just hate that white officer no matter what he's trying to do to help the situation. So as a people, I say that to say this, in short, we are all human beings. We have to look at each other as such. We have to dialogue with each other. The time for talk is always. The time for action is now. And that action doesn't have to be destroying our own areas, our own communities, our own cities. Because the reality of it is, the United States is run by corporations more than they're run by crooked cops or crooked politicians. So let's look at it a few different ways. Rioting, it helps to get immediate attention. But what is the long term? Where does our dialogue come from? If we have organizations in each city, major city in the United States, well, where are these organizations? Are they dialoguing the mayors? Are they dialoguing the city councils? Are they dialoguing the investigators? Protests are effective. Rioting can be effective. The one thing that's not effective is sitting back and saying it's okay. Because the unfortunate thing in the United States is that the value of a death has become normalized. A person dying means absolutely nothing. I've saw memes for the last couple of days of, this person making a meme, and saying, oh, he couldn't have died this way. He couldn't have died this way. He couldn't have done this. Oh, he had a criminal record. I didn't know that we all have chips within our bodies that tell us what record a person has and what lifestyle a person lives. Secondly, that does not delineate that a person should die. Dylan Roof killed 9 people. He was taken into custody. Let's think about this. Let's think about this from a grandiose or a macro level instead of a micro level. So we've had many serial killers be taken alive. We've had people who we know definitively have committed crimes. However, as I said earlier, they are still suspects. They've committed crimes and they've been taken into custody without any fanfare. Now, let's talk about the flip side of that conversation. How many people have been arrested as being serial killers of African American descent? John Lee Malvo and And why can I remember the guy name? But the DC snipers, they were taken into custody. Does that kind of normalize that okay, if you're a serial killer here, you're a serial killer? No, it just shows that certain police departments are different than others. Some police departments have the mindset, we gotta kill him. We're gonna kill him when we get him. Trust and believe. If you are an American citizen and you don't understand that there are police departments out there right now today, that if they feel that you've done something, they're gonna have that mindset. And it's all in how they're trained. That's why we have to push our local politicians. We've got to push our state senators, our U.S. representatives and senators. There needs to be legislation. There needs to be some system to assist police departments in doing the right thing. Body cams are a great thing. However, can a cop turn his body cam off? Yeah. So you tell me if that's a true solution. If you take that body cam and say he can't turn it off, well, I mean, maybe there'll be footage of him taking a dump, but guess what? At least he's got it on his whole shift. Thirdly, and I think this is the part that kind of infuriates me with George Floyd's situation, is that the police officer is going to get third-degree murder for subduing a suspect. Keep in mind, suspect, for well over 5 minutes with his knee down on it. I've never seen any arrest take that amount of time. I've never. Once you've got the person down and you've got them subdued, they should be handcuffed and immediately moved from the area. If he's continuing to resist, that is what your non-lethal methods of subjugation are for. That is why you have a pepper spray. That is why you have a taser, to subdue a suspect, to be able to take them into custody. Holding them down physically can cause many problems. I mean, Eric Garner, did we forget? No, we didn't forget. But the acts of a police force, it shows it gives people the thought that that's how all cops are, no matter whether you're in the United States. That's not good overall for us as African Americans, as minorities, as anyone who's not within law enforcement. It puts us in the mindset that put the average citizen in the mindset that if I get stopped by the police, is it gonna be my night to be harassed? Is it gonna be my night to have to be questioned? Am I gonna be pulled out of my vehicle? Am I gonna be beaten? Or am I gonna be shot because I reached for my license? There's a lot of things that the average citizen doesn't know about police stop etiquette. One of them is, once you hit the lights, I always grab my documents, I put them over to the side. Granted, how many people get stopped on a regular? Honestly, let's just be honest in this. How many people get stopped by police on a regular? Very few. The reason that I know to do this is because I travel a lot, I drive a lot of miles. I want to be as least threatening as possible. I want to have the information that I know they're going to ask for. I have it readily available. However, how many people know where my license and registration is, or my registration and my insurance card? You put it in your glove box. Guess what? You reach for your glove box. Boom. Headache. A police officer comes up on you. Boom, boom, boom. He's just shot you because he thinks you're reaching for a gun. Let's understand that the value of life is something guaranteed for us in the Torah. We should choose life over anything. For the police officers out there that may hear this, understand that all police officers aren't bad. But if you know of a corrupt officer, it's your duty as a human being to step up, say something. Even just say something to the officer. Hey man, You're a little heavy-handed, man, when you going when you over here arresting people, man. That ain't right. Sometimes people who have bad behaviors don't know they have bad behaviors until they go overboard. They think they're doing the right thing, and they're not. Secondly, for us who are faith-based, which, like I said, adopted could have met with faith-based, we're Karaite Jews, we have to read the Torah scripturally. We have to act accordingly. We have to treat each other well, no matter where we come from, no matter who we are. We have to treat that human being as a human being. So when I encounter police officers, I treat them as human beings. I literally walked into a store, and about a month ago, and this cop, he's looking at me, and I walked up and I said, "Hey, how you doing, officer?" And he looked at me kind of funny, which I was not in a great neighborhood. Let's start there. But it was like he was more on the defensive because he felt out of place. Police officers, you should not worry when you're in a neighborhood that you are not familiar with. Secondly, if you're in a neighborhood where you're not familiar or not trying to be familiar, you probably should find you another job. Because keep in mind, policing is not a right, it's a choice. If you feel on edge every day when you go to work, go do something else. Because the aim and goal of policing is to protect and to serve. You chose a position of being a public servant, so you have to serve the people. And if you're in a neighborhood where you feel that you can't do that, then hey, find another job. Police departments are hiring all the time. Secondly, for my African American brothers and sisters, we have to engage police in a manner that is consistent with who we are as a people. Not necessarily being immediately defensive. A, knowing our rights is one thing, and two, we can't come off as being aggressive. We have to come off as being knowledgeable. There's a difference. I don't scream at police officers. I know my rights. You can't do this. You can't do it. I know exactly what I can do. Thirdly, I know for a fact I'll live stream any police interaction that I have if I deem that there's a threat. That is why we see so many of the things that we see now. 20 years ago, we still had police brutality. We had people being killed by the police. Oh, the suspect was taken into custody, killed himself, and he died. We didn't have that access. Now we have that access. So with us having that access, keep a record of your life. Keep a record of your interactions with police. And the moral of this entire conversation is this: if you don't know anything about different people and how different people live their lives, take the time to do so. If you're black, you see white people somewhere, say hello, be friendly. At the end of the day, the stigma of us being different, it's a part of life, because a lot of times people who don't interact with people of other ethnicities, they don't understand. I've got tons of white friends, I got Mexican friends, I got Honduran friends, I got friends all over the country, or all over the world, especially Israelis. However, I've learned that when I go places, I speak to people whether they speak to me or not. If I see someone that obviously has a racist tattoo, guess what? I still speak to them. The reason that I speak to them is not me being, how can you say, I'm not being submissive. I'm just being friendly as a human being. Because at the end of the day, sometimes people who feel a certain way about a person may not feel that way now. Meaning that I've seen guys who've had like swastika tattoos that have gotten them covered, or were in the process of getting them covered when we met, because they ran into someone who taught them something different. Each human being has a level of knowledge within ourselves, in our brain, within our actions. We have to take that knowledge and spread it to the other. One of the things in Judaism, we always say we have to be a light unto the nations, meaning that we have to teach others to do better. Everybody should do that, no matter what color you are, no matter what creed you are, whether you're police, whether you're military. take the time to get to know other people, because honestly, and I don't even like talk about politics. The way our political world is going now, we're so divisive, and we're so divisive for reasons that mean absolutely nothing to the average citizen. You know, I'm a registered Democrat. However, that doesn't mean I vote Democratic. And the reason being is because I know that we're polarized on issues. We're polarized to a point where if one side says one thing, the other side says something else. That's not how our lives should be ruled. We should actually have politicians in our offices that meet the needs of the people. Granted, I don't necessarily say I love President Trump, but I know we spent a lot of time, and spent a lot of time investigating him, spent a lot of time doing things. He talked about doing prison reform. He talked about doing police reform. In this next election, please understand that needs to be a top priority for minorities as well as majorities. Because if you don't really understand the population statistics in the United States, whites are now coming closer to being a minority, which means that the power of the population is shifting, and the U.S. is becoming more and more of a melting pot of different ethnicities. So we have to hold our politicians accountable. We've got to hold each other accountable. And thirdly, we've got to do what it takes to make things better in life. Sometimes just say hello. It helps. Sometimes just, if you see someone side of the road broke down, don't drive by. Sometimes stop. I don't know if you're gonna do that late at night, though. I'm, a little bit shy on that. But overall, as human beings, we have to show and we have to give each other the mutual respect and love that we all deserve. Granted, there are those who are out there who won't like this message. There are many out there who will hate everything I've just said. That's your problem. I'm a black Jewish person who believes that every human being has good within themselves, and I believe that we all are destined for greatness under the Torah or under whatever scripture that you read or you adhere to, that we are all here for a purpose. And with us all being here for a purpose, let that purpose not be to die at the hand of those who should protect us. Let that purpose be to grow. Let that purpose be to build. Let that purpose be to bring us all together as a people. We don't always have to agree on every point. However, there needs to be some changes. This country is just not, it's not what it should be. I mean, for us to say that the country is on the right path, we're not. Will we be on the right path in the next 5 to 10 years? Probably not. But we all have to be hopeful, and we all have to be willing to do the work. And may God bless us all. And for my Jewish brethren, Shabbat Shalom. And if you see this after Shabbat, Shavua Tov. Have a great week.